If you could recommend another book, I know you said you didn't have it on you, but if you could recommend another book to the audience listening, what would that be?
We were talking about it before, but business building and business developing is a new skill for me. It's a collection of a lot of different skills, but looking at building a business and scaling the business that you want is something that is foreign to many people, but
Right.
also wealth of resources available. I'm going to butcher the author's name. I don't know if I know it. You know it better than me, but you recommended it to me. That's Traction. And that's what's just have you remind me, what's that author's
Gino
name?
Wickman. Yeah, Gino Wickman. Yep.
He, beyond just Traction, he does amazing work as far as being able to provide entrepreneurships with resources to make sure that not only are they growing and advancing in their business, but also let's remember that like my business grows and is running at full speed if I am well, if I am right of mind, if I am locked in and focused on not only my business but my passions and my family. And
Right.
Gene gives like a ton of resources on why that is so important, especially at this stage. So Traction has been one for me. It's really helped me understand where operationally we need to be focused on right now, and especially because that's really where all my time's going. So when it comes back to the business books, it's going to be that. That's the big one for me right now.
I think they should. I think they should use that as a textbook in school. In a business related class.
It really should. I think the other one that I would give, and I'm looking at it right now. This one I read in 2023. It's 4,000 Weeks, and it's by
Mhm.
Oliver Berkman. 4,000 Weeks. It is a bit of a different look on productivity. I am guilty, as probably many other people, of overstuffing my calendar, my to-do list, and feeling as though I need to maximize every moment of my day. What we don't realize is maximization also happens in the stillness of our days, taking a few moments to just, be here in this conversation versus all the other things that are going on. Whether it's just looking at a study guide from that book or just listening to some of those chapters, I recommend anybody who's thinking about this or who is a high achiever trying to go out there and do some great things in this world, take a beat and read that book.
Awesome. No, it's great. I've never that one. I haven't heard, so I jotted that down. I guess any other piece of advice from someone that's actually done the transition from W-2 to employee to employer? Any other
You
advice?
know,
Any other suggestion? Yeah.
yeah. This has been one that, unfortunately, there's a lot of layoffs going on, and there's a lot of layoffs happening in my network right now. So I've been getting a lot of people who, in one way or another, whether it's franchising or just trying to figure out what is going to be the next thing that happens to them, trying to figure out what's next. The thing that I find myself going back to when it comes to feedback on franchise or business ownership, even if you're partnering with a franchise, remember you are accepting the responsibility of business ownership.
Right.
The franchise has a model, they have a playbook, and they have all the resources as they should if they're a good brand to help you maximize your success. But the trick there is maximize your success and not guarantee your success. And so I believe that anybody who's interested in franchise ownership should start with the acceptance of the responsibility that they're now a business owner. And what that means, maybe late nights. What that means, things are going to go wrong. But what that means, and I see you're nodding because you're like, yeah, things are going to go wrong. Like, it just happens. It happens.
It happens. Yeah, it's a part of it's a business, right? Franchise a business on training wheels. If you want an explanation of what it is,
right?
So,
There might be a safety net, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to still fall. And so I think for me, I try to impasse this acceptance of responsibility as the biggest piece of takeaway when it comes to making this decision. Because if you expect it to be easy, it won't. That's a good thing. If you expect it to be easy work and very passive from the beginning, it may, but it also might not. And you got to be ready to accept that. It might take a lot of effort and challenge to get where you want it to be in your mind. That vision isn't going to happen on its own. It's going to take you, the business owner, to make it happen. And so if you just accept that some of those things are going to happen, when those problems happen, you're like, oh, okay, wait. I got this.
Right.
I accepted this responsibility. So now we're going to make it right. And man, that mindset has changed everything for me, because now when things go awry, which they will, we tackle it, we take it on full steam ahead. And I think sometimes some of the frustrations of somebody maybe who is in this chair, having made this decision and is wrestling with the other side of it, where maybe it's not working, maybe it's not the right brand, I think comes down to, I thought it was going to work out. I thought this, I thought that. It starts and ends with you.
Well said. I got to give you credit there.
No one's doing their business
Right.
wrong. You know what I mean?
Your ego is not your amigo.
Yeah, like if you've never been in
There you
business
go.
and you're in your first year of business, like it's not fair to expect you're going to be the best business owner ever, and that's okay. But yeah, the ego gets in the way. Same for franchisors, their ego gets in the way because they start to think, well, like we've been doing this for so long. We actually have we call it like a commandment, but one of our franchisor commandments is they could be right,
Right.
which is an idea that like that franchise owner could be right. Let's make sure we're actually listening to them, but then we expect them to also listen.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, for sure. One thing that you said was about we'll never get there without doing it this way. I hear that sometimes where someone is like, oh, I don't need a franchise. I can just make my own burger
Right.
place. I'm like, yeah, you don't need McDonald's. You could do Bob's Burgers. But do you really want to come up with the branding, all the ads? Like, I don't think you realize how much work
work
is
is.
involved. Like, of course you could do it. You're smart. You're capable. You're an executive. Like, if you want to do all that work at this point of your life, go for it. And you could do it.
One other thing I want to add too, is where when I hear people complain, is that the idea of semi-absentee ownership, where they're keeping their job and then they're running the business on the side. And I said there's a couple components there. Obviously, the franchisor has to allow that, but people are hiring managers that they've never owned the business. They're hiring managers, but they're not managing the manager. There's no oversight, so they're assuming the manager is doing what they need to do, but they're not checking in. They're not doing the weekly in-person meetings or calls and stuff like that. And if they are, like I did with my business, and a mistake I made many moons ago, 20 years ago, was I bottlenecked the business. So the manager, every big decision had to get approved by me. Well, who the heck was I to approve it when my manager had more experience in years I was alive at the time?
Yeah.
So I became a bottleneck. So the big part is finding a franchisor that will support and allow part-time semi-absentee ownership. But on the flip side, when you bring that person on, maybe they have some underlying equity, some phantom equity, so they have some skin in the game. They're getting a cut of some of the profits, but you're also managing and setting the expectation. This is what I need you to do. These are the decisions I need you to make. These are the hours I'm available, because if you have a job, obviously, and you can't talk in the hours of 9 to 2, 9 to 3, or even 9 to 5, they know when to contact you and what decisions you can make. So I believe it's both. It's the right person and expectation, and finding the right franchise that would support that type of ownership.
I mean, and just for obviously for your listeners, they know your background, but you owned a cleaning company. Like, what can you just give the background real quick, just for my audience?
Yeah, we had commercial building maintenance, commercial cleaning. I ran the business full time to really scale that business, and then after that first year, brought on that manager. It was an operations manager, general manager. I forget what the actual title was, but I was so tight to the business. I touched every part of the business. I had to finalize every decision. So I had brought a manager, and by the way, my background was on Wall Street, and we owned the restaurants. I had no experience in that industry whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I brought an experienced person to the table, a GM with 20 plus years experience in that business. But yet I had to okay all his decisions to the point where, he wasn't able to do his job. It became kind of a bottleneck. So I was running it semi-absentee, but not allowing the manager to do their job, on a daily basis. So it was an interesting business. I learned a lot. I learned that you can't be the expert in all areas, and that you need to hire people that are better than you in certain areas, at social media, at marketing, at sales. So I learned a lot in that business, and I do a lot of learning. So I try to bring that experience to the table when helping people to find a franchise.
It's interesting. What you did, though, is you got in the business, you learned it, and you grew it.
Ready to take the final step and find your perfect fit? Watch the full episode to learn the 4-step franchise freedom process and schedule your exploratory call with Giuseppe Grammatico today.